Hello, welcome to The Balancing Act, the interview series. It takes a behind the scenes look at the world of business, exploring how entrepreneurs, executives, leaders have succeeded and what they learned through the process. I'm your host, Cary Shields. Today, we are joined by Jim Shaw, co founder of Zion Solutions Group, a supply chain integration group. Jim, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Cary.
Yeah. If you would, tell us just a little bit about yourself first to start off.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So one, you've got an excellent voice for podcasts. You've got a much better voice for podcasts than I have. We were sharing pre-show that we also do a podcast called the Zion Experience, and I've done 30 plus of them. And
Oh, wow.
I'm an engineer by background. So had you told me I was going to be doing podcasts 15, 20, 25 years ago, I would have thought you're probably crazy, but here we are, right? So I feel like I've described myself and introduced myself a lot with where Zion was. We'll get to that later in the show, but starting a new business and just reestablishing yourself in the industry, and just you meet a lot of new people. We as a systems integrator, we distribute other people's products, so I'm constantly meeting people, and the way I've come to introduce myself is really a kind of a personal mission statement that I've go, and there's really four statements in that. One's just faith, two is family, three is doing work worth doing, and four is a good adventure or adventure. So that's how I usually describe myself, and all of those I could spend a long time going through each one of them, but I'm born and raised in Hodgenville, Kentucky. I've been here my entire life. It is LaRue County is the county that it's in. The county, and I say that and call it out because 8+ generations ago, it was named after my family. So my entire family, which is very important to me, you heard my second statement, is lives within about a 10-mile radius of me. And Hodgenville, Kentucky is famous for it's where Abraham Lincoln was born. And his birthplace is about 2 miles down the road. So my family, let's go into that a little bit. My family is I've been married to my wonderful wife, Holly, for 15 years. We have 4 children under 12 years old. And I'm a dad. I'm in that season of life. I love being in that season of life. We are Christian. My wife and I are very active at our church. So that's where the faith comes in. Zion, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is based off the biblical name of Zion.
Yeah.
And my entire family lives around. I've got an older brother, or I mean, an older sister, younger brother. All my in-laws, good or bad, are about a mile and a half down the road from my house. And I was born and raised in what I call the country, small farm life. My family raises cattle. I grew up on a farm. I went to school at LaRue County. There's one school in the county. It's about 800 kids, small school, and ended up going to University of Louisville. Became an industrial engineer. Spent 5 years there getting a master's. The first day I started college, I started work at UPS because UPS would help assist paying my school, my tuition. And I don't know that I was smart enough to get the scholarships academically. Otherwise, I had some scholarships, but most of those were sports based. So I was big into sports. I wrestled. I played baseball. I had some success in both. And by the time college came around, I was ready to start something that was meaningful for a career. So started there, engineering school, started UPS the same day, first day of school. Worked at UPS for 17 years, worked all over the globe for them. Got a lot of experience, met a lot of good people. And then in 2015, I left and joined a systems integration company out of Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And I was there for 6 to 7 years, and then they were purchased by private equity. And the best way that I know to say it is there's some people in life that you get along with, and there's some people in life that you don't get along with. And life's too short to live in that space and for either party. And it's not saying either's right or wrong, but as a human at this age of my life, like I know the people I do well with, I know the people I don't do well with, and it wasn't a good arrangement. And so that led to the founding of Zion Solutions Group in 2022. And so here I am. So I've hit faith, I've hit family, I've hit doing work worth doing. I'm the president and co-founder of Zion Solutions. I've got 3 other co-founders. They're my guys and my friends and my buddies behind me on the picture here. If anybody's seeing the audio or the video of this, and then you can see my wonderful family too on my other side. And I'm doing work that's worth doing to me. And I don't know if you want me to go into my adventures, Cary, but maybe that's a question I'll let you ask down the road. I got some pretty cool adventures I've done as well. So that
Well
is on
said.
this side of the table. You can see a couple of the other photos up here. So I can
Yeah.
go into them if you want to later, but that's a little about me. I'm 43 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot in 43 years. And I think that athletes tend to have a lot of adventure. Is there a sport that you participate in now, like fishing or running, cycling,
Yeah, it's
pickleball?
funny. I never was a runner. I guess I could consider myself an ultra runner. I've done one ultra, but I
Wow.
run quite a bit. I took up running last year, and true to my form and my personality, I'd never really run before. I ran training and wrestling in high school, but just
Hmm.
did it out of endurance and training.
Hmm.
And last year I ran about 1,100 miles and
You
ran,
took
I don't
up
know.
running
Yeah.
and you ran 1,100
I
miles.
decided last December of 2022, it was time for me to get my heart pumping a little more. And obviously we do this as business, and
Mm.
I'm not as active as I would have liked to be. I've always hiked. So the hiking's my big adventures that I
Okay.
can share about. I've hiked, I've done some huge world hikes, top 10 hikes in the world. I've got more planned. But I took up running, and I run 20 to 30 miles a week now, and I ran my first marathon. I ran the Louisville Derby
Did
half
you?
last year, and
Yes.
I'm running it with my wife and my 12-year-old daughter this year. So I'm getting them on the healthy
So you
kick,
run
and
the mini or the full marathon?
the mini, the mini.
I'm
And
saying,
my
man, if your
wife's never
daughter's,
run. She never run more than a mile. So I'm super proud of her. But I
yeah.
ended up a stretch in October last year. I ran 2 half marathons back to back. I ran a 25K, which is about 16 miles, give or take. And then I decided to run a ultra marathon, which is technically, to be an ultra, it's 31 miles.
Mhm.
But this was a trail ultra marathon. So I ran it in Red River Gorge, which you
Yes.
probably are familiar with. And
Mhm.
it ended up being about 34 miles, and it was extremely tough. And I wondered why I did it after I was done. But yeah, those are some of my adventures. Yeah.
This is awesome. All right, so you've touched on Zion Solutions Group, and I'd like to ask the partners, the co-founders you have there. So, are these lifelong friends, or these individuals that you met through those early years of working?
Yeah, so 2 of them, if you look behind me, 2 of them are a father and son. They were part of the systems integration group that I joined when I left UPS.
Okay.
Chuck Frank is one of the names. They both live in Northern Kentucky, so they live in Erlanger, Edgewood area, Northern Kentucky. But there's Chuck Frank, there's Jordan Frank, and then there's Drew Eubank. And so Chuck and Jordan both live in Northern Kentucky. I met them at the other systems integration. It was actually Chuck's family's company. He had sold the business
Oh, wow.
when I joined,
Yeah.
and then it got sold again to some private equity. But it was his family's business. Jordan was a 3rd generation worker in the business, and so I've known them as long as I've been there. So going on 8 years, I consider them lifelong friends now. I consider them more business partners. I mean, we have a true
Yeah.
friendship, and then Drew lives in Georgia, so that's why you see one of our offices in Georgia.
Okay.
Along with we had some non-compete um, language that we had to honor when we started Zion. So
Sure.
uh, we started and formed the company in Georgia, but Drew and I've known each other for 15 plus years. We've worked together at UPS, and I think sometimes all you have in life at work is work is what I tell people. It's the people you get to work with that really make the work meaningful. And so Drew and I knew each other, stayed in touch. I'd brought him into the other organization, the other systems integrator, and then um, he's the 4th co-founder with us. So
Awesome. Now, you know, starting a company, creating a company. as whether you've done it or not, you either have done it and you know the challenge of doing it, or you haven't done it and you can imagine the challenge of doing it. What's the
Right.
thrill of starting a company?
I think it's a personality. Is you have an idea, you have a desire, you have a spark that gets you to start a company. And so the thrill for me, I can't speak for everybody. Some people start companies different ways. Um, I think there has to be a catalyst,
Hmm.
when you're starting a company. Is there's a lot of people that have those ideas, but ultimately what's the catalyst that makes you go do it? And for me, I've got 8+ companies, Cary.
Hmm.
None are as large as Zion, but I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've always done it. I started a rental property business back when I was in college. I bought my first home when I was 20 years old. I had a macroeconomics teacher that was talking about the value of owning a home, and so I just said, you know what, I'm gonna go buy a house. And then I had college roommates live with me in a house, and I said, that's pretty decent money. Why don't I go buy another house? And I looked up, and I had 25+ properties and 50+ units, and I had started a rental business in my 20s, and I still hold several of those properties. And
Cool.
I've got a little construction and excavation business, and then I've got Zion. And so I've got some partnerships downtown Hodgenville we've invested in the downtown
Hmm.
and put back some people I went to school with. So the question, I don't know if I really answered it, but for me, I love building stuff. I love working with people. And whether it's building a business or building up people, that's where I find passion. And that's what drives me. After it's built, I kind of I don't want to say I lose interest, but that's not as thrilling to me. The
Right.
maintenance of it. I enjoy the challenge of the build. And I don't know if that's my competitiveness from athletics. I don't know if that's just how God wired me, but I like to build stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm not scared to take the leap. And I had nothing to lose as a 20-year-old. One of my statements was always is I want to be I was several dollars in debt in my early 20s, and I was lucky. When you look back at life, a lot of times it's luck. Is how was I able to secure that funding and get the loans and do what I did? And I was pretty blessed to be able to get those.
Hmm.
Um, but I had nothing to lose. I figured, what's worst case? Why not do it? And then as you progress in life, you obviously have more to lose. You got to be a little less risk adverse. But
Yes.
I like building stuff, and I'm not scared of risk. And I probably have too much confidence sometimes. So those are three attributes that usually help people start businesses. May not make them successful, but helps them start them.
Well, and there's two things for that I would think that attribute to your success. And one is, I mean, that desire to like, well, I'm kind of bored. I'd kind of like to start something new. Well, you can't until the first things are already self-sufficient. So you've got to create a team or somebody who's like, you got this, you got the coffee maker, great. I'm going to go fry the eggs. Like you got to have something where you can hand off. It's no different than delegation within a company or within a job. Over top the company itself, it's delegating the function of that company. Would you agree with that? You know, and if so, like, how do you identify those individuals? Is it your core principles the four principles you named at first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. So multiple people do this different ways, but let me speak in the Zion sense. And I think it goes to the other businesses I've done, or it could go down. I think you could translate this even to how you function as a family. But you've got to have a call it strategy. It could be multiple different things, but ultimately, what's your vision? What's your mission? And then what's your values? And how do you build it up from there? And then because if you don't know where you're going or what you aspire to be, which to me is what a vision is, it's what you may never reach there, but it's what you want to be someday.
Sure.
And then your mission is more, and there's multiple different ways that companies label this, but your
Sure.
mission is really like, what do you wake up every day and you do? That's
Right.
what you do.
Yeah.
right? That's the purpose you serve, walking and trying to progress on the journey towards your vision.
Yes.
And then it's your values drive down to the people that you surround yourself with, and what's the minimal acceptable behaviors that you have in whatever business that you've got. And so for us, we spent a lot of time on that. I'm going to just speak to Zion, right? As we knew very clearly we wanted to work together, the four of us. We had done it at a previous company. We had a catalyst in that there was an exit. There was a private equity group that purchased the other company.
Yes.
And I shared a little bit about that. It's like it wasn't the right fit for them or for us. And so that catalyst, we took about 1 hour after we had the conversation with them that this wasn't going to go where we wanted to go. And we decided we wanted to do this. We're good at it. We like working together. So then it progressed into, we spent, a couple months putting together what's our vision. And our vision, which is powerful to me, is like, we're out to deliver memorable experiences and we want to guide intelligent change. That's what we aspire to do every day. That's what we're building a business around. It just happens to be in the systems integration, material handling world. And then we put together a mission. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but to get to the people side of it is we put values down that how do we want to surround ourselves? I've never done a meaningful thing without somebody that's been a part of that or been a team part of that in my life. I don't care if I go back to high school. I had a coach who cared about me. I had teammates who cared about me. I had a teammate who was in wrestling that was in the room that made me better every day. And I've done that throughout my career at UPS. I had a lot of success at UPS. I enjoyed working at UPS, but I had some great teams that I was able to work with and lead. Awesome. And the other systems integration, the reason they got acquired is because they had phenomenal growth. And that was because we put together a great team and we built a culture that people were attracted to. And we had accountability and we gave people responsibility, but authority to do it, and then held them accountable to doing what we needed them to do in support of the mission. And so we've just replicated that, taken the best parts of that and put it into Zion. And we have not had trouble attracting people to the business, Cary. But I think it's because we do a really clear job of establishing who we are and what our vision is and what's our values. And our values today, we're going through a strategic process called Pinnacle right now. So we're really reshaping some of our values, and our values are going from where we started the business 2 years ago. Is our values where we care about family, we focus on relationships, we listen to our customers, we're committed, we're innovators, we're passionate people. You can probably feel that a little bit, even though we hadn't met. You can probably feel that a little through the video and the audio, and we're fun. We like to have fun. So that's how we establish when we're interviewing people. It's like, okay, here's who we're about. Let's start there, because it's got to be the right fit for you. And it's not all about us. It's got to be the right fit for you and us. And then does that feel good? Do you like that? And then here's what we do. Do your skills match? Do you think you can do this job? Do you have, and here's the not good stuff about what we do. Sometimes there's if you're an individual that needs a lot of structure around you, maybe a small business isn't for you. And I shared that. We share that with potential employees. I've shared it with an intern. We do a lot of work with interns, and we're tied into a couple of different universities. And one of our interns is looking at her career, and she wants to stay and work with us. And I'm just like, let me tell you the bad about a small business. That could be bad. If you want a lot of upward advancement and like a real clear path to progression and job advancements, like a small business doesn't have that.
Yeah.
A small business, if there's a lot of time. I don't have a bookshelf that tells me how to run my business. I can't go to my bookshelf and pull it off. You go to a big business, it's probably documented. The playbook's in place. The process is down. So I don't know. I ramble too much, probably, Cary, but
no, not at all.
There's anything without the people that we have, and just entrusting them, empowering them. But we start with telling them who we are and where we're going, what we stand for. And then we have a conversation about, do they have technical skills that can support that vision, that mission, and our values?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that was perfect. And your unwritten but well-spoken playbook is that process of introducing, potential team members, to, well, this is what the company does, but this is how the co-founders want it done. And these are the principles, the why behind the how we get it done,
Right.
because the company does X, and this is how it does it. And we want
Right.
it done this way because of the why of how we feel. I mean, that it was all you articulated it. When we finish this video, go back and just write down what you said. You'll have your playbook. So
There
that
we go.
team, when you're building that team and you're looking for those new members, I think, again, you've already stated it's how they feel about your why and the how you do things. How do they feel about that? And like the intern you're talking about, she's excited about the comedy product because it's very promising. The website looks fantastic. The video itself shows a lot, I think, because it's actually an enjoyable video to watch. So I can imagine her thinking that this is going to be fantastic. And she's young, so you're probably thinking, does she fully fit? Is she who she is or who she will be? I mean, it's very kind of you to be thinking about her success rate there. That would she really enjoy it in the long run? Um, what when you have all that in play, and I imagine this is shared amongst you and your co-founder. So you have this wonderful, just base understanding. It's not surprising to me, by the way, that you come from farming. I think people that grow up in farms, they like this podcast, The Balancing Act. Everyone loves to talk about work-life balance. When you talk to farmers, farming work is life and life is work, and so it's always in balance. What's the question, right? I think that people from farms have just a much better understanding of what's bringing food to the table and keeping the roof over our heads. They just do. I
Right.
would have loved to have grown up on a farm. So you and your partners, you share these theories. You're putting them in execution. Your company is running. What happens when you find someone that in the moment is like, this is totally who I am, but then not? You get that challenge there within the team. Either it's they take a job that really is not their behavior or personality style or whatever it might be. You know, what's a manner in which, because everyone has that challenge, everyone. How does
Yes.
how does Zion approach that? You find someone that's just struggling in their position for whatever reason.
Yeah, so I've had the good benefit of being in a major organization and watching how they work through, let's call it an improvement plan, or how do
There
you
you go.
coach
Yeah.
people up? How do you train and develop people? And it's funny you asked this. My last conversation, I have monthly one-on-ones with a lot of my team. We're not a huge team right now. We're 24, 25 people. We're growing. Uh, that's a calculated number. I mean, all we do, that we're professional services is
Yeah.
what we do. We ultimately act as a general contractor and build a bunch of cool warehouses and material handling in warehouses. So put in conveyor. And I usually tell people, like, think of Amazon. When you order something and the box shows up, we help build the system that delivers the box. We don't do it for Amazon, but we do it for other companies like
Yeah.
that. But I was having a one-on-one with one of our teammates, and she was just asking, what are your opinions of where my career can go and what I want to do, and I aspire to do more. And I'm like, man, that just fills my heart up. That one, there's a couple things you unpack there, right?
Yeah.
One, that we've got teammates that feel comfortable enough that want to talk about that.
Yes.
We're doing something right when people are comfortable enough to have those conversations. And then two, it's just in my career, I think there's all things we like to do. And you can call it a quadrant of four. One of the exercises we went through with Pinnacle is like, what are things you really want to do and are passionate about doing? What are things that you like to do and you're maybe not as passionate, or what are things you have to do that you don't like to do? And what are things that you don't like and you don't want to do? And, you know, how do you put them in that quadrant? Well, one of mine is I love mentoring people. I love developing people. I love helping people. And I have a heart for it. And I genuinely and care about that for people. And I don't get to always do that in a president role. It's a little different now. But I think you can push that through our culture. So, one, I think you've got to be open. I'm a big, firm believer in expectations. So we try to do I've hired and talked, and I go unscripted off. I don't have a formal process when I talk to people. I don't have a list of interview questions. We're a little unorthodox in how we approach interviews. My interviews more of, let me just ask you questions about, let me tell you who we are and our culture and our vision and our mission and our values and where we're going, kind of like I said a minute ago. And then let me just ask about you. I don't need to get in the technical side. Let's have a conversation about you. And so we properly vet, you know, the old adage you hear, hire slow, fire fast. And it's like, I feel like we've let somebody down if we hire somebody that ultimately doesn't work out. So we do a whole lot of work of explaining who we are, what we do, making sure, trying to disqualify them and manage expectations and set them. Just like that. I mean, how many people tell an intern, let me tell you what sucks about a small business. Let me tell you what you're not, let's get it on the table. There's nothing to hide about it. It's reality. These are facts.
Yes.
Some things are opinions, but these facts exist in a small business versus a big business. And then we ask people, there's a couple questions I always ask people when we do. It's like, at the end of the day, Cary, if you were wanting to come work for me, I can explain all day what we do.
Right.
But there's two things I can't do for you. One, I can't have you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you want to do it and can you do it? Those are the two things that I ask the individual to do. And so I think when you spend that time up front, you give that commitment, you share that you're willing, and then you got to work through it. So now you get in a job, and we've had it. We're small, we're newer, but we've had people that it's just not the right fit. And there's multiple ways that things aren't the right fit. Sometimes it's not the right fit because we've as leaders or coaches have failed. We don't have the right processes in place. They don't have the right tools, or some combination of that lacking that don't give them the opportunity to do well and be successful in their job, or we haven't made time, or we threw them into something, we grew too quick, we whatever. So we're mindful of that. We have a training and development program. We have coaching sessions. We have talks and communications where we're pretty open about that as a leadership team. Like, look, we know we need to do better for you.
Right.
But when somebody just really doesn't fit, then it's a conversation of let's have it. You don't hide from it. You deal with it. You have an open conversation. You try to work if the person is willing to work and you want to work. I'm always in favor of, like, sometimes there's just, you need to do things a little different to be successful. And then there's some times where it just was like, you're not the right fit and you're not going to be happy here. And we encourage them everybody deserves to be happy. So we try to help them find happiness other places.
Yeah.
And thankfully, if you do the right job recruiting and bringing in, and you're open about what your failures are as a business back to your employees, you have very few tough conversations like that really end up where both parties feel like somebody didn't, you're at the ends. And we've been able to exit people from the business and still remain amicable is the word I would look for. And just like, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't the right fit.
It's
And
totally
I
right.
still look at it and internalize it as a group and as our team and our leadership team is like, that's still on us.
Yes.
That's still on us. It's not the employee's fault. So there's been times others, I would say, Cary, like, might be not a funny story, but I've had people where I've told them they're quitting and I've helped them find a job. And the conversation was tough. I've never had a problem with tough conversations. I think when you care about people and you've been honest and you've been open, doesn't mean people are going to respect it or like it, because I can't control another person's emotions. But I've never had a problem having a direct, tough, transparent conversation, because it comes from a place that I care. That other person may feel differently, but I've had some people that I've told them, like, listen, you're not going to work here anymore. and they wouldn't have made that step themselves. And I
Good.
helped them find another job and helped them get it. It was a partner of ours. And you know what? The kid's thriving. It was the best move for him. And he was super happy. But those are I've had moments like that through my career where it's just like, that's kind of a cool story, right? I still remember sitting down with him. I said, listen, you're not working here anymore. Well, I said, I'm not firing you. I'm helping you find the opportunity you need.
Yeah.
And I talked him through it, and I think he really appreciated it.
I
And
think, have you ever heard, I think it's a book, The Carnegie Principles, or it's one, I think that's the book where they refer to freeing up someone's future.
yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't, but that's a good term.
Yeah, the greatest blessing I've had in life was the last time someone freed up my future, where I
I'm a firm
involuntarily
believer. I mean,
quit.
you asked if how do businesses get started? Zion wouldn't exist if what happened didn't happen. We all were working together. We were fairly content. I call it, we were on a train that I don't know if we'd have ever gotten off the train.
Yes,
But I'm a firm believer that God opens a door for you and he shuts other doors for you. And you may not know why, and you may not know what for, but you try to
yes,
do that in
accept.
life, right? Everybody deserves, I go back, Chuck says it. I think Chuck's the one that credited with this. Is like, everybody deserves happiness. And
Yeah,
sometimes as humans, we get stuck in a job. We don't think that we can do anything different. And it's too scary to change, and it's too fill in the blank. Humans don't like unknown.
yes,
They don't like the unknown. They don't like voids. They're most humans like stability. They like reassurance. They like,
yeah,
structure. They like these things. And
yeah.
life's too short.
That's too short.
Life,
And yeah,
life's too short not to be happy and to be where you want to be.
yeah, yeah. I'm finding that place where you naturally thrive. Like in coaching as I do now. The funnest thing is the behavior assessments, because a lot of people find what they're naturally great at, and they often find that the seat they're in is doesn't really ask them to do what they're naturally great at. And so continue to honor the seat you have, because again, food on a table, roof over the head, but begin looking at, well, what seats are available that
Right.
require the skills that I'm naturally great at, that I just can't help but be excellent at. I wake up in the morning and I'm magically great at it.
Right.
Everyone is, right?
Right.
Yeah, knowing that is just really empowering, and it's the part that I really enjoy, and what I
Yeah.
get to do now. So that's a great story that totally helps, because it always to me leads to the those questions of teams, and it's hard to build what I believe a team needs when someone is sitting in the wrong seat, so to say. So what is
I feel like
key?
you've been talking our pinnacle guide, because we're going through that right now. We're doing, again, every program calls it different, but it's the accountability chart. Like, are you in the right
Accountability.
seat?
Yeah,
Right. And what responsibilities are sitting in that? And then we followed it up. We did the disc. You named the personality profiles, and we've done them, but we did a disc assessment. You could
good.
probably guess which, if you're familiar with disc, you could probably guess what
High
I
I,
am, but
high I, and D probably, because you're so
D.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the D, and the and all four of us are D's. As a matter of fact, a couple of them had a little bit. We got a little bit of sprinkled I in it. So imagine that as the leadership team. We got one more. Chuck's wife, Kathy, works for us. She's part of our executive team, coaches. We call ourselves coaches,
Yeah.
and Kathy's the only C working with a bunch of D's. So it's interesting. But we
Yeah,
went
so
through a
all
unique.
you C's and S's out there listening to this,
We
you need
need
to
you.
apply to
We need you.
Zion. And if you don't know what you
We're not
are,
that
you need to
scary,
give
but
me a
we need
call.
but and it's kind of funny, like a few of the people a few of the five of us, like they didn't think I would be a D. And I think you can balance your personality with emotional intelligence, but that's probably a different conversation. I've learned to it doesn't go away, but I have learned my D overwhelms people, and I've learned how to
Modify.
not make my D be projected on other people through emotional intelligence.
Yes. Yes.
Which takes work. It's exhausting. If you're a leader, you get it. Somebody out there is going to listen to this and be like, it is, but that's the burden of a leader. That's heavy to wear, but that's your job as a leader. If you don't want to do it, don't be a leader. But we talked about unique abilities, and what are your unique abilities that just you don't even realize they're super abilities or unique abilities. And we went through that exercise, and it's always a fun exercise.
Totally.
Putting it into practice sometimes is that's where the teams that really thrive and grow and successful companies are the ones that can do it, because it's not a black and white issue. You can't just, okay, here's mine, but tomorrow I'm not going to do this anymore, and somebody else has to do all these 4 things. It's a blending process, but ideally you want to put people in the right seats doing the things that they're most passionate about, that comes most natural to them. And
yeah.
like I
When
said, that's exercise we've been going through the last couple months.
Awesome. Has Zion have you done the disc with the teams? Like, so that
We have not yet. So the
You're
way
gonna
that
enjoy
Pinnacle
that.
works is they do a base camp. It's all mountain themed,
Yeah,
climbing
yeah.
the pinnacle. So base camp's getting ready for it. And it's all the work with more of the coaches. And then we're going to decide if we do it down to the team. It's optional in that. And
Mhm.
I got some opinions on it. We did it with our last team, and I don't like to use, I think sometimes you can take those and interpret them too literal, and you certainly don't need to just hire straight off that, but you need to be aware.
Yeah.
You can't let them become blind spots. That's where I've gotten in life, Cary, is you can probably relate to this, is forever and a day, training and development's been about what's your strengths and what's your weaknesses.
Mhm.
And for the longest time in the corporate world, I think it was, let me tell you what you're not good at, and let's work on trying to improve your weaknesses. And I've got a little different philosophy on that, is what are you strongest at? You have to understand your weaknesses. Your weaknesses can't become blind spots or can't hinder you from doing your job. But what are you best at doing?
Mhm.
Now, and it's just what you said, position yourself in a place that best utilizes your strengths. And we've done a bunch of this over the years, but I had a lady named Diane from Gallup that was doing some training with us, Cary, and this has always resonated with me, and I think it will with you, is like, when you hear your favorite song, what do?
I sing along.
And what do you do with the volume?
Oh, I crank it up.
You turn it up, right? So why would you not take your strengths and crank them up? And it's a good visual for it, and it's like, because it's too easy to say, well, let me tell you what you're not good at, and let me focus on that. And we try to approach it a little different. It's like, you're fabulous at these 4 things. Now listen, these aren't strengths for you. You can't let these be blind spots that hinder you from being successful, but find ways to make your strengths shine.
I love I love the blind spots. Because again, now disc are not personality measures, they're just behavior measures, which is,
That's
you
right.
spoke to it where you know your behavior and you've learned how to curve it. What did you learn? You learned where your blind spots are. I like the blind spots analogy, because blind spots will cause you to miss the ball when it's hit at you, right?
Right.
So it's just
Right.
knowing that you know how to work around that, and
Right.
so you spend more time where you are excellent with yourself, your strengths or your greatest song cranked up. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love the blind spots. That's a good one. Yeah, I love it. So, man,
I warned you I
let's
was
see.
a talker, didn't
Well, I
I?
enjoy it, so which is which is a
Yeah, I
good
am
thing.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we covered all those, and with Zion Solutions, it's a solutions group. So the it you'd said earlier intelligent change, and you'd also mentioned, do you actually help companies build like assembly lines?
We do.
I just
Yeah.
recently met a company. I believe he's one of the co-owners, I believe, and all they do is build tractor trailer, like trucks on a highway. The two axles on the back of the trailer, all they build are that. They don't put the tires on. they don't put the wheels on. They don't attach it to the boxes. That's all they do. They're about a 75 member team based out of just the south end of Louisville. Young guy, he was hysterical. Very, very just like, and just like I don't know what's going to happen next, but he was just on top of just being on top of it. And he walked out. He's like, yeah, we're trying to build another assembly line on this end of the building. So yeah, next time I talk to him, I'll ask him, how do you go about building your assembly lines? And I'll make sure I give him your name. But wonderful, wonderful individual and a cool company. And that's all they do is that one thing.
Right.
And I walk around his facility and I'm just looking at tens of people just working, oh, it's end of the day. Awesome. I'm done. Made my pay. I'm going home to my family, to myself, my life. Yeah, it's wonderful. So solutions, is it, if it's, is that the kind of solutions that those are the companies that are coming to Zion Solutions Group? Is that what it is?
They are. Yeah. So I describe us as the best way for somebody that's not in the industry is I describe us as think of like a general contractor
Okay.
that's working with building a house. And instead of building a house, what we do is inside of a warehouse, we build storage systems. We build racking and platform systems. We build conveyor systems. We install robotics and technology, and then we put on top the software systems that run it all. So we do full, it's not, a lot of people call it turnkey, but we design it so we can take a blank warehouse
Mhm.
and we can design what needs to go inside of it. So we do all the data and analysis of saying, again, back to the house, it's like, okay, you got 4 kids, you got 2 of you all, you need 4 bedrooms and you need X number of bathrooms. So we take data in and say, okay, you need to store 10,000 pallets and you need to ship out, 100 orders an hour, and you need to do this many units inside of an order. And so then we build a system that supports that, and we distribute through a partner network. I've got 50 to 60 plus partners. And then we design it all. I've got engineers that design it. Some of the most creative engineers in the industry, as far as I'm concerned, and people that come up with the solution.
Yes.
Because it's all about the concept. And I tell people, another thing I tell people is like, we all got the same Legos, mostly. We just come up with some better Lego designs, but ours just are racking and ours are conveyor and ours are robotics that are shipping products out. And we help aerospace. We do work in the aerospace industry. We do work in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry. We do a lot of work in the e-commerce and retail industry. We've done some pretty cool designs like HobbyLobby.com. Most of this team designed that warehouse. If you order something on HobbyLobby.com,
Yeah.
that I could go through a whole slew of them, but we've got a 1.2 million square foot warehouse where we're putting in like 100,000 pallet rack positions, and there's 6 to 7 miles of conveyor, and there's a robotics goods to person system in it, and automatic box makers, and that's what we do. They call them systems. It's material handling, and it's projected to be. It's like a $50 billion industry. It's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, it's super cool.
If somebody hears this and is interested in it, we look up the term humanoid, and Cary, you can do this, but look
Yeah.
up the term humanoid. So NVIDIA had a big showcase, like I forget what they call it, but the chip maker NVIDIA talked. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and look at some of the humanoids they brought on stage, and we're talking with some of the companies that were on stage with them, and a humanoid's a futuristic, it's a human robot is what it's
Okay.
designed for, but it's going to be working in warehouses in the future. And we do a lot of work like that, but it's pretty cool work. So
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, so all that all capped in, like, Zion, your previous experience, you've got the bravery to go out, start companies, you're adventurous, you're still athletic. Do you have a moment that you can share where either you or Zion faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge? Well, Jim, thank you for joining the Balancing Act. It's been a great interview. I've really enjoyed it. And to the viewers and listeners, this wraps up yet another episode of the Balancing Act. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you find it valuable. My name is Cary Shields, and till next time, stay in balance.